picture that made it to an area that I don't want. So I'm going to delete it. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so if this is the entrance of the house, what do you guys notice?
It doesn't lead into the house exactly.
Right. All right. Khulud, do you see that, right?
Yes, yes, I can see it.
Okay, so why do you think it doesn't lead straight to the house? What does that have to do with people or architecture?
Security.
Security. That's a good point. Yeah. What else can you guys think about?
Privacy?
Privacy. Yes. Can you say a little bit more about it?
The idea that our family, there's a sort of an intimacy about our family,
Yes.
and sort of marking that our space is our space.
Yes. Great. Anything else?
I would guess cleanliness. You don't want people's sandy shoes going right into your living room.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, there is this kind of hall in here, which is which stands as in here. Sorry, Khulud, I said here without the red dot. So in here, without you get into the house, but all you see is a wall. Sometimes it's decorated, but it still is a wall, right? And then you make the L to the patio of the house. So if you, this is the dirt, which is the street, any passerby cannot see anything inside here. Well, privacy is very important, but what this privacy has to do with gender and traditions and Islam and all of that is another line that we can also follow. So architecture, according to one of the Algerian sociologists by the name of Fatima Ait Sabah, architecture in northern Africa, especially Andalusian architecture, is actually built or understood around the presence of women. So there is gender has a lot of things to do with architecture. She even thinks sometimes that if you look at a house from outside, there is this doors that are doors of the houses, and there are windows. So she thinks about the symbolic side of that. Sometimes if there is a window and there is plaster around the window, usually plaster is white, well, symbolically this is like the eyes that the house or anybody in the house uses to actually see the outside. So the black is the black of the eye, and then the white is around it. And then the mouth, actually, the word for door or entrance in Arabic is fum, F-O-U-M, and then what it means is mouth. So it's actually mouth of the house, right? So this is what that's why there's a lot of things that you will, those of you who will go to Morocco, you will see them, and of course they have a lot to do with gender. This is the the L shape, and this is the window. If you look at the window like this, you definitely are not going to be seeing much inside, but people who are inside can actually see it. This is what usually called it's a grade, but it's very beautifully made. This is what Fatima Sabah thinks that Islam has been implemented from the 7th century until now, and then it has served to a large extent. How Islam got introduced to North Africa made it later that there is a sort of dichotomy or two different spaces, male space and the female space. And then, of course, if you read sometimes some of the old Arabian literature, we have the words like harem and all of that. So there is, of course, nobody thinks about transgender people or anything, but definitely there's male, female, and that's it for a long time. Even in the countryside, it's still the same. This is an example of what an L-shaped entrance looks like. This is actually a house which is very close to the center where some of you are going to be going to. It's called Doha's house. Doha is a name that you should remember. Before you go to Morocco, I remind you of her. She's a very good cook. Her mother actually cooks from here. A lot of food that you eat from the center is going to be cooked from this place here. So this is the patio here, and this is one of the rooms. It's actually the guest room, and then it's all the rooms have these, you know, these windows that look like this, sometimes with curtains. Countryside. This is just this is about 35 miles from the center that I just showed you, and this is actually the area where my wife comes from, Tifot kind of area. So here space is very different because there is no derb. Homes are scattered. Think of just places like here in the United States. And then your neighbor can be probably, I don't know, the neighbors here can be probably 5 to 10 minutes away, something like that. But you have all this space here around the house to maneuver. So I've seen people cooking, making their bread outside. They have the laundry lines in another area, and then they have sheep and goats and stuff all around the area. So there's no real, the space, how space is defined is totally different from there. Privacy is not an issue because, well, of course, if somebody is coming from some place, you're going, to see them. That's one thing. A lot of times, people think that women stay inside, but not really. So the women are inside what I would call this area here. So this is the inside for any sort of action. Anywhere here is inside, but outside is not outside the house, but outside the area where you actually come from. So wherever that fin du monde is, or end of the world is, that's going to be considered actually the outside. So it's a very interesting concept. Back to the inside of the house. This is a very rich house in Morocco. This is what we call a derb, or a D-E-R-B, which is a street. And then you can see, a lot of times you see doors that are really, very, not as fancy as you think. But once you get actually inside this door here, this is the house that you see.
Mm.
Wow.
And it is very interesting. This is another just illustration of what a derb is. This is actually the place where your school is going to is located. And if you go straight to where my dot is, this is the house that you're looking at. And sometimes it's fascinating because when we think about elaborate kind of work, ties and all of that, you think sometimes, well, what is inside? People, the reason for that, as a lot of scholars of anthropology have thought about it, of cultural anthropology, thought about how cultures make definitions and rules for things. In Morocco, people don't like to show their wealth. So the outside is going to be extremely different from the inside. And this is how a lot of people, men, traditionally would wear a jalaba. And they're actually hiding their wealth. Women would hide all the jewelry and everything under a cover. So from the outside, everything looks alike, but from inside, one layer inside, and then you see a lot of other different things. This actually gets translated into architecture as well.